Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Ways Breakfast, the table where we get to the heart of what matters. And this time, we are interested in listening to the heart of people who has found a home in the state. Probably their first occupation is hustling, and also known as the Center for Excellence. In Lagos, for too many residents, securing a place to live fits less like a fair transaction and more like a rip-off. For over 70% of us, the rent we pay is a major slice between 40 and 60% of our income. And for many, it is a crippling burden. The request for 2 years' rent upfront, the arbitrary fee hikes, the threat of illegal evictions, it is a cycle of exploitation that has gone on far too long. But a new proposed bill in the Lagos State House of Assembly aims to put an end to this. Today, we're diving into paying rent in Lagos. Can a new law break the cycle of exploitation? We'll explore whether this new proposed legislation is the lifeline tenants need and the framework landlords have been waiting for. My name is Goodness Ide, and joining me for today's conversation is the vibrant Triumph Akiboye, and to be later joined by the realtor Ehosa Rita Eke-Oyewusi. Together, we'll pull back the layers on this issue and hear your thoughts. Let's go meet my beautiful lady. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing too?
I'm doing very well. Today is such a good day. You know, I was thinking about the fact that we're going to be having a public holiday tomorrow. So as much as there's a public holiday tomorrow, one thing I always say is I'm an essential worker. So I still have to come to work. But it still makes me happy that I am looking forward to, you know, a break tomorrow. Because aside from work, I get to take the remaining time off. Yeah.
Okay, so how was your day coming? How was your week?
No, it was very beautiful. It was good.
Okay. I can really see. Well, for me, it was also good. Thank God for the safety on the road. You know, most times I usually wonder why, not really wonder though, but on the Third Mainland Bridge, it's always like a risky risk because you get to see some drivers driving carelessly and impatient drivers too, you know, that could also result to probably something that you aren't called for. All right, we'll quickly go on a short break. Then when we return, we'll reflect on the significant event in history and we'll look through the papers of today. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So what's your thought on these historical milestones? I would love to hear your insight and perspectives. Remember that our comment section is there for you and our phone lines are open. Please call us on 07025 007749 or 0701 4242420. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, click the subscribe button now, like and share the link. Tune in to the channel 145 on your GoTV and don't miss this. Now we'll head straight to our newspaper review, taking a look at the headlines across the globe. I was starting with the Punch newspaper, which Triumph will be leading us with.
All right, so for the Punch newspaper for this morning, let us start with the screaming headline. APC Opposition clash over federal government's revenue growth claim. Right after this story, President counterfact. Presidency tells critics. Revenue nothing without results. This is coming from opposition. Economists query Tinubu's no more borrowing assertion amid 13 trillion naira deficit. So a story you will find in page 7 of the Punch News. My reforms have restored Nigeria's global respect. This is coming from Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is also coming from the presidency. This is a story you'll find in page 19 of the Punch. Non-oil revenue jumps 40% to 20.6 trillion naira. And now that's come out to insist on their strike. They said that over 2,000 doctors owed. In another news that you would find in page 12 of the Punch News, security concerns behind visa cancellations for Nigerians, others. This is coming from the U.S. 3 killed in Lagos Masquerade Festival clash. Another story, terrorists recruited 1,364 West African children, shot 14,000 schools. This is coming from United Nations. Now, let me quickly talk about the different stories that caught my interest. Let us start with the headlines, which says that APC opposition clash over federal government revenue growth claim. Now, the All Progressives Congress and opposition parties has clashed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You remember that yesterday we were talking about the fact that, he's doing a great work, saying that he's not going to borrow again. And then, there's a clash over that Nigeria has already achieved its according to what he said, that Nigeria has already achieved its 2025 revenue target. So the APC is insisting that the president has placed Nigeria on the path of economic recovery. While the Labour Party, that's, the New Nigeria People's Party and the coalition of united political parties, accused Tinubu of celebrating statistics while citizens struggle under severe economic hardship. And then, economists expressed skepticism about the president's assertion that the federal government had stopped borrowing locally as they called for clarification from the managers of the economy. And by the time the experts came out, they pointed to the continuous debt market operations by the Debt Management Office, questioning the president's assertion and its alignment with the current economic realities. Let me first start by saying that sometimes when opposition party come out to talk, the good thing, the interesting thing about this is that once it's time for them to be in power, they're also going to have opposition party who is going to always talk down on whatever they do. As much as this feels like a game of play, you're just playing. We know how the table always turn. If the Labour Party is in power presently, APC, PDP are going to be coming out to say that, oh, what this person is doing is not right. What this person is doing is not good. What this person is doing is not great. But let us not also forget that you mentioned something very profound yesterday, which I used to say since I was a child, that there's so much going on with the country already. Why not give some people a chance? Even if you give them a chance and you don't see as much, because there's so much damage coming from individual, personal damage down to, the country as a whole. So when we commend, let us commend. However, let us also look at the other side of it. So that is what, caught my attention about that story. And then another interesting story that we have, not interesting, but another story that I want to talk about is the fact that, the UNN has come out to say that, okay, let me find it so I speak in their words exactly. So they've come out to say that about 1,364 West African children has been recruited by terrorists in Nigeria. It is funny how terrorists have schools. It is funny how terrorists have school, and this is going out to say that 14,000 schools has been shut because of lack of the ability to pay. Now, if 1,364 children are being recruited to terrorist schools, what is going to become of the nation in few years to come? So these questions are the questions that are just like in my heart, and then I'm wondering that who is going to answer them for me? So those are the stories that I want to talk about on the Punch News.
All right, so let's head straight to the Guardian newspaper. It starts below the masthead. Non-oil growth account for 20 trillion naira income, says presidency. And beside that, we have constitution review. Abbas unveils proposed amendment to Southern stakeholders. That story is on page 3. And beside, we have DSS arraigns 9 suspects for Benue Plateau killings. And it has a leading story that concerns insecurity. Yeah, a federal government reopens debate on state police as Tinubu declares readiness. That's the reason, page 6 of the newspaper. And below that, we can see a picture of presidency with the Inspector General of Police, Egbeto Kun, and the Senate President, Akpabio, with some other ministers alongside that. And also, we have some stories underneath. ADC faults Tinubu's charity plan for National Library. Alongside, we have Zulum leads Northeast government to Tinubu, 6 completion of 17 roads, oil exploration. And lastly, the news I'll also be mentioning is poly lecturers may withdraw services after ultimatum. We've been having news back and forth that the ASU are intending to go on strike. So not just even at the within the federal universities. So it's also stated here that even the the Polytechnic, that's, I think they call them ASUP, right? Yes, they may withdraw services after ultimatum. So looking at
So they've joined them.
Well, I don't know. You know, the situation, the education situation in the country, right? Everybody is on the receiving stroke of the cane. So looking at the state, the leading headline, federal government reopens debate on state police as Tinubu declares readiness. We have the federal government that has made a significant shift on the controversial issue of state police. That was yesterday, after President Bola Tinubu declared the possibility of working with the National Assembly to design a framework that guarantees local ownership while ensuring political neutrality. This is as a reason of, the current situation, security situation in the country. So, and the president has stepped out to recognize the effort of the civilian JTFs and the community. However, because of the state of security, this had provoked him in thinking about bringing up the state police, which could work with the National Assembly to design a framework that guarantees political neutrality and safety. That was declared by the president. Let me hear your opinion concerning. Do you think this initiative of state police is a good one for the country?
We've been having to talk about state police for a very long time now, right? There's so much back and forth. We want state police, we don't want state police. We want this, we don't want that. As much as state police is like police, generally, as much as, law enforcement agencies are very, very important. They are very, very key. What I always think about is that will they be able to carry out their responsibilities? I mean, let's take a look at the federal police, the regular police that we have. We have so much back and forth. We have so many things that are wrong that we've normalized in the country. So there's just so much to look at. So I am saying that, how do we fix the present one that we have on ground? And if we are going to be bringing a new one that is called the state police, how do we ensure?
Even some of the policemen they're even part of those people that also imbibe in corruption. Because I've seen
that is what I'm saying, that there's so many lapses with the normal police. So how are we sure that we will not be facing this with the state police? It could also be
an initiative, because in the Daily Trust this morning, we have a news there in the headline that touts chased a couple to death. So
I mean,
imagine that.
it's a great one. However, let us focus on the most important thing, which is whatever you people are bringing on board. Check them well.
All right, thank you so much, Ryan. So we're going on a short break right now. When we return, we will be joined by Realtor Eho Sarita Eke to discuss the pressing issue happening in Lagos State. Stay tuned. Welcome back, our dearest viewers. Now, today's conversation that is hot is titled Paying Rent in Lagos. Can a new law break the cycle of exploitation? And joining me on this conversation is, of course, my beautiful co-host, Triumph, and as well, Relator Ehosa Rita Eke Ojewosi. Good morning, Ma.
Very much. Good night. It's great having me here today.
Yeah, great. Happy New Month.
Same to you.
So let me just put you on a cool aspect. How has been your morning so far?
Well, great. We're just starting.
Okay.
Hoping for a better day at the end of the day.
All right, thank you. So now, heading straight, the Lagos State House of Assembly is considering a new proposed tenancy being hailed as a potential game changer. It promises to protect tenants from exploitation and give landlords a clearer legal framework. Provisions in the bill aim to regulate agency fees, simplify rental agreements, and most importantly, speed up legal battles. But even as tenants rejoice, landlords and investors have their own concerns about losing income or tenants invading rent. However, let's not forget that Lagos State has had laws like this before. That was the 2011 law that took effect in 2015. And you can also see even the poor enforcement left them ineffective, because one of the laws stated in the 2011 says that the landlord shouldn't collect more than a year rent from the tenant, and even that's for annual rent, and if it's for monthly rent, shouldn't collect more than 6 months. Otherwise, there will be a penalty for this. And so far, it has been ineffective in Lagos State. I've seen some landlords that do ask for a year plus rent, 1.5, 2 years. But now the big question now is, what makes this new bill any different? And can it be enforced to actually solve the exploitation crisis that has been deeply rooted in our society?
Goodness. Yeah, the proposed reduction of agency fees from 10% to 5% in Lagos State Tenancy Bill 2025 is a commendable step towards making housing more affordable for tenants. And by capping these fees, the government aims to reduce the financial burden on renters, which they all usually face from as high as 10% to even 20%. However, the problem we'll be having is in terms of enforcement. You remember these bills have been existing, like you mentioned, the one that was enacted in 2011. Yes, that was codified in 2015. That has always been, although they didn't deal with the agency fee, then they dealt, what they addressed was not collecting more than 1 year. Landlords are supposed to collect just 1 year rent. But we see that not all landlords have actually kept to that law because enforcement is poor. While the intention is positive, the practicability of enforcing this cap remains a concern. That's where we have a problem. Enforcement is the problem. The idea is good, but enforcement is what we've always faced, just like the one we had before. So compliance is what we are looking forward to. And how do we get that? I think regulatory bodies should be enforced in order to audit the actions of agents and tenants' activities. And then the government should also create public awareness. When individuals are aware that you are not supposed to pay more than a certain percentage, fine. When they have the awareness, when they have the knowledge, then when an agent comes or a landlord comes to try to now ask for more than the 5% that is being instituted, that is being looked into, or that they want to enact, they have a place also to report the case to. That's another thing. There should be an agency where tenants, when an agent or a landlord is asking for more than the required percentage, they have a place where to report to, and the regulatory bodies will take action.
All right, so now let's look deeper into this, right? Over time, because I was born and bred up in Lagos, and I've experienced a lot from these landlords and even these agents people. So now let's look at this. Beyond the money, we have tenants who are often exploited by being forced to live in an unsafe or unhealthy conditions because landlords, right, they fail to maintain properties. Does this new proposed bill have strong enough provisions to protect a tenant's right to live with dignity?
The enforcement is still what is necessary, and effectively the implementation will be carried out. Of course, we know that there are some tenants who also damage landlord's property. That's another challenge landlords are also facing. And even when they move in, when the properties are in good shape, they end up causing damage. And so that's why sometimes even some landlords fail to carry out repairs, because some repairs, now we also need to identify which repairs are supposed to be carried out by the landlords and which one are supposed to be carried out by tenants. And I know usually it's the exterior parts that are supposed to be carried out by the tenants. Enforcement, like if regulatory bodies once in a while go and supervise buildings, they can set up committees and go around supervising buildings. And where any landlord is found culpable, then actions will be taken. Things like that will put landlords to their feet and will usually do what they are expected to do.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. So there's a side of this whole thing that we're talking about that I want us to look into. And it is the fact that as much as we are talking about it's been good for citizens, for Nigerians and all of that, there are some agencies that they rely solely as a means of living, right? That they rely solely on this percentage, on this money that is coming. For example, you go to you want to get a house before you can even get to the landlord. I mean, you meet with these agencies, you meet with these real estate. They are the one that is following you, to look for the houses, And then by the time they come out to say how much they are going to be collecting for all those things, it's like a whole lot of money, which is always somehow to me. However, I have also realized that for some of these people, these are the things that, they are using to fend for themselves, to take care of themselves. So do we consider it an exploitation on their own hand?
To some areas, they've been exploitative, I must say. I'm in the field, so I understand. Now, let's look at, I think what the government also should introduce is they should also introduce the cap based on the amount to be collected for rents. For example, if you have somebody who is paying 100,000 for rent in, let me say, in a month, and the person is going to pay on a monthly basis, if you put 5% on that 100,000, that's the person will be collecting 5,000 naira, of which might not be enough to carry out all the responsibilities of the agents. So I think the maximum, there should be also a benchmark where the percentage starts reading. And there should be a minimum fee also, like for between 100 to 500,000, there will be a minimum agency fee based on amount and not percentage, considering because 5% on 500,000 might not meet the needs of the agent in carrying out his activities. So a particular amount, they could just, the government could say, okay, between 100 and 500 as the total rentage for a particular space of time. This is the amount that is applicable as agency fee. Then from 1 million upward, then the 5% can speak in. So it's workable. That is very practical. So where failure comes in, where non-compliance comes in, is when you are telling somebody to collect an agent fee of 5%, which is equivalent to 5,000 on a job that he's going to carry, spend as much as even 10, 20, 30,000. So that is where non-compliance comes in. So I think the government also should put this together before they release bills. They should consider things like that.
I mean, what you just said right now makes a whole lot of sense, ma'am, because thinking about what you just said, sometimes some of these houses that these agents are trying to get into, some of these houses are like in millions of naira, in millions of naira. So if we are saying that maybe we are cutting down, maybe it might affect them, you know, it might affect them more. But saying, you know, hearing what she just mentioned as regards the fact that depending on the kind of amounts, the kind of apartments, the kind of amount that that house is going down for, so that we are also thinking about the end of the agents that are actually trying to also make a livelihood through it. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, so let's look at this, because I want you to be extremely, you know, honest. I know you're honest, right? I've dealt with some of this housing agents, and even with the landlords. Even recently, I saw some houses where they said this particular landlord needs 2 years and above. Even some put it out like 3 years. If you even can't pay 1.5 years, the house is not going to be out on rent except you can pay that amount. Do you think that this law can truly change this deep-seated market culture? Because it's already imbibing them, right? And we know something so funny about Nigeria is once the price increase, Nigerians will never go down back to the price. So since this is a culture that Nigeria has imbibed, that, oh, now if you want to rent an apartment, to some landlord, you must have to be able to pay 1.5 as your first initial payment. Do you think this law can truly change this market culture, or will landlords simply find new ways to get around it?
To some certain extent, yeah, not everybody is disobedient. You have some landlords who listens. Let me take, for example, I've had to manage some properties, and where I have the landlord asking for more than a year rent, I remind him that it is illegal for you to take more than one rent. And being that they actually listen to me, they take my advice and they get to listen. However, there has been an issue. There's been a case where a landlord, I had to even tell the landlord, okay, I had to advise the landlord, let's see. I had to request for 2 years rent. Now, this was the scenario. The place had been abandoned for a very long time. Landlord said he didn't have money to put it in good shape before renting. So I now told him, advised him and told him that the property is dilapidating. Then again, I had somebody who needed an apartment that fit into that property. So I told the landlord, okay, don't worry. In this case, it's not even the landlord. It was me that suggested it. But I did not impose it on the renter. I went to meet her. She needed a place urgently. I told her, I said, we have this place, but landlord does not have money. 1 year rent will not take care of the renovations. I would advise, if you can pay a 2-year rent, we renovate and you move in. And that was what happened. In this case, knowing fully well that it is against the law to take more than 1 year rent, I pleaded with her for our own good also. Truth be told, I wasn't even looking at the commission. If I tell you till today, I'm sure because it was a mini flat, my commission was supposed to be 150,000 then, but I got only 100,000. Why? Because I put the tenant first, because she had actually wanted that property. And I must tell you, she paid me the 100,000 after 6 months, because at that stage, I was bent on helping her. She needed a house. And I also wanted to help the landlord put that house in good shape. So I spoke to her, she agreed, and fine, it happened. So back to your question, yes, it will work. However, we know that there are still some lawless individuals who will still not keep to it. And since there's no enforcement of this law, nobody to catch them at their game, they succeed in it. That's the problem we're having. Everything boils down to enforcement. If we can have good enforcing policies, then we will achieve at least 90% as against those who would not comply with it.
All right. Thank you so much, Rita. We'll quickly go on a short break and we'll return back to continue on this conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned to this beautiful conversation concerning, will I call it, the palaver between the landlord and the tenant, precisely in Lagos State. But before we go further asking, before Triumph asks a question, we have a question in the comment section in YouTube. It says that, what is the legal allowance for rent increment for existing tenant? I think Rita will be able to give answers to this question.
I think according to the law, you're not supposed to increase more than 20 to 30% of the rents. However, in most cases, we see landlords not even considering it. Between 2023 to 2025, the rate at which, especially in the year 2024, the rate at which rents flew up, we actually didn't understand. I think what landlords did, they tried to look at the rate of inflation and just added a markup. You see a property going for 1.5, turning into 3 million, 3.5 million. So it's usually not supposed, according to the law, it's not supposed to be more than 20 to 30%. However, that's not the reality we see in today's rent increase.
That's been burning in my heart whenever, since I've gotten to Lagos, because it's not really like that in some other part, some other state. And it is, let us talk about, this is still on this matter of cycle of exploitation. The exorbitant prices or the exorbitant charges that comes with, the whole package of trying to rent a house. You can imagine if maybe a house is going for 1.5 million, and by the time you are paying agency fee, the total package, caution
commission.
fee, well, there's just a whole lot of fee, and then the whole thing is going to about 2.8 million naira just to rent a space of 1.5 million naira. And then it feels like maybe that is not enough. Then 5 months into living in the house, you will start to hear things like, leave this house. You are going to be leaving this house. I have not even spent 1 year. And you are telling me to move out. And then you are giving me a date. You are giving me 1 month to move out of the house. I mean, it's already ridiculous that these prices are a whole lot. Is this supposed to be, what is supposed to be the correct standard? Is it supposed to be that it's 5 months in before they can, is it supposed to be that it's, after 6 months, then they have the opportunity to start asking for, telling them to pack out of the house? Or is it that maybe they are not following the actual law that is being stated? Because I think that if I am going to be paying so much, even much more than the whole package, and much more than the house itself, for all this caution fee, agency fee, you are not supposed to be coming to meet me after 3 months, after 4 months. I still watched the video recently on Instagram. The old, the old belongings of the lady was outside because the landlord is telling her to pack out. And she said that she's not owing the man. But he's saying that pack out, just like this incident of this my sister that I am talking about presently. So I don't know what is supposed to be the real standard and how do we get down to this thing? Because I don't think we should continue this way in Lagos State.
Yeah, thank you. The law is clearly, it's clear on notices and evictions concerning when a landlord has to issue eviction notices to its tenants. There are certain reasons why the landlords will want to issue an eviction notice to the tenant. However, for a tenant who moved in less than a year and a landlord is already thinking of issuing a notice, that is pure wickedness, of which the law has not addressed. I think that's one of the things that even the 2025 tenancy law should look into, addressing issues like a tenant packs into a house under a year, the landlord is already thinking of issuing out notice. But all things being equal in terms of eviction notices, for a tenancy period of 1 year, for 1 year, according to the law, the notice is supposed to be for 6 months, and for half yearly and quarterly is supposed to be for 3 months. And then for those who pay monthly, is supposed to be for 7 days. However, if that's when your tenancy is still active, if for a yearly tenant and for 6 months, the tenant holds in arrears, then what the landlord needs to do is just 7 days notice before he now proceeds to the courts to carry out the eviction procedures.
So how do we cut down this pure wickedness, like you said? How do we, reduce this pure wickedness? Because sometimes if we are saying that, okay, maybe they should sue this particular landlord, sometimes people don't even have the capacity, the money for it. And to even move out, to move in, to purchase a vehicle that is going to carry your goods, like it's just a whole lot. And it's not
probably that even the commission or the agent fee or the agreement will be returned back.
So I really don't know, because what should we do to this pure wickedness? How do we really, really get down to it?
The government has to help us in this situation. The government has to put that into consideration in this present bill also, that they are working on. Again, agencies also should be given the power to carry out some actions against landlords like that. That's where, without having to go through the court cases that might likely take long before it can be rectified. So agencies should be given the power to be able to carry out actions on certain landlords who tend to be wicked within a year. The law should also state, except where there is danger, then that's when immediate eviction is required. But where there is no danger on the life of the tenant or those around, then there should be a stipulated time that a landlord, that's what one of the things I think this present law should also look into. The period of time a landlord can give its tenants eviction notices.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. At least you are standing in for them, that's the realtors and the agent people. What are some of the legitimate grievances of landlords? Because towards this new proposed bill, which seems to give an upper hand to the tenant, do you think there will be the risk of losing their investment? That's from the aspect of the landlords. Do you think there's a risk of losing their investment if tenants should have more upper hand in this new proposed bill?
It's not like they're losing their investments. Yes, in as much as the tenants would have an upper hand. Now, why the focus is on the tenants, why the protection is on the tenants, is because landlords have exploited tenants way past. So that's why the law is trying to protect tenants from what they have done in the past. There would have been a need for that tenancy law, if not the actions of tenants. However, then when tenants are now taking advantage of these laws against the landlords, then I think the law will come back again, sit down and see how to also protect the landlord so that everybody will have their own fair share of protection.
All right, so one more question before we call it a wrap. There are fears that if the government threatens to enforce monthly rent payment, and landlords may convert their properties to more profitable, like shortlets. I think I've seen some of those instances. Is this really a threat? And how can the bill address it without, killing investment?
It will actually be a problem if landlords decide to now convert their properties to shortlets. However, I think the government should offer incentives or tax break for landlords who offer their properties for residential purposes instead of commercial purpose. Secondly, also the shortlet markets should be regulated, because the truth is that the rate at which it's going without regulation, since the shortlet market brings more money for the landlords, everybody is trying to go into shortlet, even in terms of when you're even promoting a property, where you can actually use it for a shortlet, which you will earn more money from it. So incentives should be provided for landlords who maintain long-term rental agreements, shortlet markets to avoid uncontrolled growth, and then flexible rent payment options also to protect the landlord's cash flow without demanding unrealistic upfront payments is necessary to protect the landlord, to make the landlord also consider renting it out on a long-term basis.
All right, so I will want to just quickly squeeze in this question on our comment section. First of all, thank you, Osawo Ahmed Saleh, for your contribution towards this conversation. Now, from Okwayemi Okwayagbe, he says, in the case where there are an exploitation or even outright rejection due to tribe or religion, how does the law protect Lagosians from such landlords who discriminate them? Am I still with Rita?
Yeah, I am. Okay, I think I've been caught. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Sad enough, the law has not made provision for things like that. It is sad, so
Very
sad,
funny.
so sad. And those are one of the things also. You see, it's very important that we have a stakeholders meeting. When a law is being promoted like this, when laws are being promoted like this, the stakeholders should be called upon, not just the assembly making provisions of this law. Stakeholders should be called upon so that they contribute their own parts, areas where they think that the assembly should look into, and then they should, because this tribalism, uh, tribalism is actually a problem. I only want Yoruba people. I come in and tell them, sir, it's not about tribe, it's about the personality. So it's actually a problem. Yes, the landlord listens to me, but there are some landlords who will not listen to the agents and still insist. And there are some agents who will not even go against the landlord's request for a particular tribe. So I think the law also should come in this area. No tribalism. It doesn't make us a better nation.
You know, this is a very, very funny thing. I say things like, I don't want a Yoruba person, or the landlord only wants an Igbo person, or you hear something like,
Working class, young couple.
I don't want young couple. I want young couple.
Christian.
I just see different things because I have this particular, you know, real estate agency that I get to work with. So I see all those things and I'm wondering, yeah, but there's also something that used to, or that always bothers me as regards the real estate world here in Lagos State, and it is the fact that you don't get the opportunity if it is not your house. Usually you don't get the opportunity. I mean, this day house, they don't want to rent it out for a long time. There is nothing like, I mean, wherever you're staying, you might be leaving the house in like 2 years or in 5 years or in 10 years, which back in the day, before, it wasn't like that. Before, you used to get the opportunity to live in that particular house, for years. And then I've heard a real estate agent say something like, the reason why they do that is because they will want to increase the amount of it. That is why sometimes they have to send people or put people on an agreement that after 3 years,
collect double of the commission and agreement.
After 5 years, so that by the time they move out, they can increase it. Or if they say that maybe it is even business that you are running, they will not, if they know that it is business that you want to use the place to run, they will not even want to lease it out for you for a very long time. And thinking about this, we have to also think about, the pocket of people and all of that. So is this actually the real standard of it? That the reason why here in Lagos, you cannot have an apartment for a very, very long time. Before you know it, you would have to start thinking about the fact that, or you're even scared that you might have to leave this place very soon.
All right. I think right now
we don't have her again.
Yeah. So concerning that, me too, I've also experienced such thing. I and my family, but I won't be able to say much on it. I think she will be in the best position to answer that.
I just think it's just at the end of the day, everybody is down for their own pockets. That's
true.
just
so now
me thinking about
renting an apartment in Lagos is not for you to get a home. It's basically a business
for you to look for ways to like. So that's just it. Because what other reason?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Rita Eosa Rita Ekoyewusi, for joining us on today's conversation. At the end of the day, this new proposed tenancy bill is a sign of hope. It acknowledges the immense pressure on Lagos residents, the right of every citizen to live without fear of exploitation, an attempt to create a more balanced relationship between landlords and tenants. But we must remember that a law is only as powerful as its enforcement. Without a strong commitment from all parties, government, agencies, landlords, and even tenants, the Lagos housing war will continue. It's time for more than just a law. It is a time for a new level of integrity and cooperation to build a city where everyone can find a fair and decent place to call home. This is where we draw the curtains. See you tomorrow at the same time and stay blessed.